Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming. My name is Tazeen Ahmed, and I'm the president of the Montgomery County Women's Democratic Club. We are a membership organization of politically active women and men, and I underline men because many people feel like because we have women in the name, we're only women, but we're men and women, at working to advance Democratic policy priorities to elect Democrats up and down the ballot. We work to educate all voters on local, state, and national issues of importance to Democrats, with a special focus on issues that disproportionately affect women and their families. If you are a member, thank you. If you are interested in learning more about WDC or becoming a member, you can visit our website at womensdemocraticclub.org, but we also have a membership table outside where you can check with our membership chair, Enid Light, and she will provide you all the information you need. At WDC, we continue to bring you important events, including presentations, community dialogue, advocacy efforts, and much more throughout the year. And to make these events possible for everyone, we try and provide them at no cost. But for us to be able to continue to do this important work, we need your support. Please make sure that you're renewing your annual membership. Consider making additional donations when you can. And if you're not a member, please join. We also want you to join by volunteering your time, attending our events, and engaging in our advocacy, and sharing information about our work to amplify the important issues and voices to bring democratic values to our community now and in the future. So before we get started, I'd like to thank the entire WDC board and our team of volunteers for helping put this event together today. Could all the board members and volunteers please stand to be recognized? We are able to bring you these great programs because of the work that all of these women put in. So with this forum, we hope to give you an opportunity to hear directly from all of these candidates on key issues and to decide who among them deserves your support. As you know, it is crucial that Democrats regain control of the House, so choosing wisely in the primaries is important. We need to ensure that we retain this seat by electing a Democrat to the Congressional District 6, and to do this, we need all hands on deck. Ruth Bader Ginsburg once said, "Real change, enduring change happens one step at a time." Well, at WDC, we're ready to do the hard work one step at a time to bring about real and enduring change. And we plan to do this by building bridges and alliances with so many of you that are doing the grassroots work, including the Montgomery County Democratic Central Committee, Do the Most Good, and the District 15 Democratic Club, all of these organizations have tables outside, but that we've also been working with multiple organizations across our county. I want to thank the Montgomery County Board of Elections for joining us today. They have voter registration and sign up for paid election workers. Election workers get paid a minimum of $250 a day, so please consider signing up, and because we're going to need lots of election workers for the elections in November. And now I'd like to just go introduce the candidates that have joined us. I'm just going to read them in alphabetical order, and then Brian will take over after that. So we have Peter Cojeras, April McLean Delaney, George Gluck, Ashwani Jain, Leslie Lopez, Takesha Martinez, Mohammed Muzandar, I think Adrian's not here, right? Lorianne Sales, Joe Vogel, and Kiambo White. With so few days left for the election, I know that many of you candidates want to be out there knocking on doors, so we really appreciate you taking the time to join us here today. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this afternoon. Brian Karam is an award-winning journalist, Emmy-nominated reporter, and the author of 7 books. Brian is a veteran White House correspondent and a former senior correspondent with Playboy magazine. He currently writes a weekly column on the White House for Salon.com and is a regular contributor and columnist for the Washington Diplomat. His podcast, Just Ask the Question, generates high ratings through topical interviews with engaging, knowledgeable guests. Brian is an accomplished First Amendment advocate and has testified before numerous state legislators as well as Congress in support of free speech and the federal shield law for reporters. He is the founder of the First Jailbirds Club, celebrating the accomplishments of reporters who have gone to jail to protect the First Amendment, and is a member of the Investigative Reporters and Editors, the National Press Club, and the White House Press Corps. In addition to his numerous accomplishments, Brian worked for 11 years as the executive director for the Montgomery County Sentinel, and he lives in this district. Thank you, Brian, for joining us, and I'm going to hand the program over to you.
I got to get her to write my resume. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to briefly go over the rules of engagement, then we're going to just hop right in with questions. We have randomly chosen who will sit where. Candidates drew names seated from my left to the right, so it's all by random. We will start by asking questions at this end, then we'll go down this end, and we'll alternate. Everyone will get a question. 60 seconds to answer. If they will raise their hand if they want rebuttal. If I determine that, it'll be up to me to determine if there's rebuttal, they'll have 30 seconds. Our timekeepers are in front. You'll get and there they are. You'll get a 30-second when you've got 30 seconds left, 15 seconds when there's 15 seconds left, and, of course, that stop. If you go on past stop, there's a gentleman up there who knows this signal, and we're going to cut you off. We've got a lot of candidates here. We want everyone to have a fair chance. There are no ad hominem attacks. If you're going to attack your opponent, you can get up and leave now. This is not the venue for that. This is a forum. In addition, we ask from the audience that you all act politely. If you may disagree with what is said, that is fine. You're able to cheer. Keep away from booze, folks. Just be polite. That's all I ask. And if there's going to be any problem there, we have people that will escort you outside to where you can scream, rant, and rave all you want, but not in here. So we have about 2 hours to get it all done. We're going to do it as quickly as possible. We're going to start with question number 1. My first question is this for candidates. I've covered Congress more or less for 40 years. The most important thing that you're going to do if you're elected to Congress is join a committee. I'd like to hear in a minute's time from each of you what committees you think you should be a part of and why. We'll start on this end with Joe Vogel. Yes.
Are we going to do a 1-minute intro of ourselves?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Did you want that? Did you all want a 1-minute intro? No, I'm yeah, that's me. That's on me. All right, so we're going to start at this end with Joe with 1-minute intro. That's the first question. You got a heads up. Go ahead, Joe, 1 minute.
Thank you so much, and thank you to the Women's Democratic Club. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm Joe Vogel. I serve in the House of Delegates representing the Gaithersburg and Rockville area. I'm running for the United States Congress because our democracy is on the line. I come from a family where 3 generations in a row of my family experienced the loss of democracy. I refuse to be the 4th. But we can't just defeat Republicans to save our democracy. We have to reignite faith in our democracy and restore confidence in our government. That's been my focus in the House of Delegates. It'll be my focus in the United States Congress. I'm looking forward to a productive conversation on the issues today. Thank you again for hosting this, and thank you all for being here.
Next up, Joe Gluck.
George Gluck here.
George.
Almost exactly a year ago, I came here to Seneca Valley High School as a substitute physics teacher to finish the rest of the year. Oddly, exactly a year before that, I did the same thing at Damascus High School. At the end of the previous year, a Damascus student gave me a gift card for Subway. At the end of last year, a student here gave me a gift as well. The taste of the veggie sub or two has long faded, but this note I'm about to read, sitting in my office, will nourish me forever. Dear Mr. Gluck, I wanted to thank you for being willing to come this late in the school year and teach physics with passion to me and my class. So please let me represent you in Congress with the same passion I taught here upstairs on the 3rd floor.
Mohammed Mazumdar.
Hello, my name is Mohammed Mazumdar, and I have 30 years with the federal government, U.S. Department of Energy. I retired as a scientist of U.S. Department of Energy. I am contesting here for membership of the Congress because I thought defund, my main object is to defund Israel, free Palestine, expand metro to Germantown and to Frederick, fund a small business administration, universal health care with 100% coverage. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. White.
Hello. Okay. Hi, good afternoon, family. My name is Keamba White. Friends and family call me Bo. I am running to be the next congressperson of Maryland 6th Congressional District. I'm a moderate Democrat for changing and challenging times. I first came to Maryland in summer of 2008 with the internship at the Congressional Black Caucus Institute. Over the last 16 years, I have worked with a couple of Midwestern Democratic parties, as well as National Building Trades, AFL-CIO, and other government, public, and private sector unions. I'm a firm believer that, based upon my life, that even though success is not a guarantee, with the proper tools and resources, it is always possible, regardless of one's race, gender, religion, or socioeconomic status. I believe that, unfortunately, far too many of us have forgotten the accurate vision of our republic and the true meaning of democracy. And I'm asking for your support in being the leaders who pick up that call and take the fight straight on. And I look forward to speaking with you and hopefully meeting you as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we go to, before we proceed further, we want to recognize two people that aren't here, Adrian Petrus and Altamont Wilkes, who were invited, who did not show up, and to Destiny West, who recently had a baby. So it's her destiny not to be here today. She's got to take care of a newborn. So with that, April Delaney. April?
Hello. Okay. I'm April McLean Delaney, and I'm thrilled to be here at the Women's Democratic Club, in part because I think we need more women in the House and Senate, and we do not have any in the federal delegation. And we have a unique prism on these sorts of issues, and I look forward to talking to more about some of them. This is a very competitive MD6 seat, and we have to look at who has the leadership experience, the message, and the ability to keep this seat blue. I believe I have that. I'm a lawyer. I helped start a national nonprofit to stand up to big tech and help kids online, and I served in the Biden administration at a very senior level on tech policy, helping roll out broadband and looking at AI and many different things in our national security. Most recently, I decided to come into this race because I really care about choice, about driving workforce development into Western Maryland, and to really preserving our democracy and making sure we have the resources and pragmatic message necessary to keep this seat blue. I know I can do it. Thank you.
Thank you. And Lorianne Sales.
So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lorianne Sales. I'm honored to serve as your council member at large. Formerly, I was a Gaithersburg City Council member. I'm running for this race because it's time Washington works for us. And as we've seen in the past 2 congressional years, we have not seen a very active Congress. We've seen a lot of infighting and not a lot of work getting done on behalf of the American people. We have families that are struggling. We have guns in our schools. Rights for women and people of color continue to roll back. Progress is not being made. And in Congressional District 6, we need to ensure that we keep this district blue and that we continue building upon the progress that we've made. I'm the only full-time lawmaker and have received national recognition as Legislator of the Year during the most trying times. We are in the midst of trying times. And as we know, elections are consequential. When you go to the polls on Tuesday, May 14th, I ask for your vote and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving on, point of order. I love that. Peter Koharis. Peter.
Hi, I'm Greek and speak with my hands, so I don't want to hurt anyone. I was born in Greece as an orphan. I came to this country when I was 2, and when I was in 3rd grade, my parents were divorced, and my sister and I were raised by a single mom. I worked hard, and I went to Harvard, the first person in my family to go to college. Afterward, I didn't go to Wall Street. I went to Asia and worked in a war zone with refugees. Then I went to Africa and worked with UNICEF in a famine and civil war. I came back and went to Yale Law School and became a lawyer. Best of all, my wife Lily and my 2 little girls are here. As you can tell, I not only believe in the American dream, I've lived it. But for half of all Americans, the lowest since World War II, won't earn as much as their parents. They won't live as nice homes. They won't be able to educate themselves or their kids. They won't even be able to live as long. I'm running for Congress to change that so that any kid in this district will have a chance at the American dream.
Thank you very much. Next up, Ashwani Jain.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ashwani Jain. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a 34-year-old son of immigrants and small business owners, very proud product of Maryland Public Schools, published author, and a cancer survivor who worked in the Obama White House. I am running for Congress in my home district, not just to make history as Maryland's first millennial or first Asian to serve in the office, but because I have specific policy solutions to open the doors of opportunity for all of our community members. Issues like tangibly getting money out of politics, making public college free, canceling student debt, having Medicare for all, having a $26 minimum wage by the year 2030, and being the first in this race to call for a ceasefire in Gaza and conditioning aid, because we need a nuanced approach which gets hostages released and gets aid to the civilians there. I'm looking forward to the conversation, and again, thank you all so much for being here.
Thank you. And Leslie Lopez.
Thank you so much, and thank you for everyone for coming out this afternoon. For those of you I'm just getting to know today, my name is Leslie Lopez. I am a working mom with 2 little boys and the wife to a increasingly patient husband. And I am an educator. I've been a faculty member at George Washington University for the past 12 years and a proud union member, SEIU Local 500. And I am a delegate. I've been representing District 39 for the past 6 years, and welcome to my district. There's 2 things that I want you to remember about me in this very crowded field of talented candidates. 1, I am the only candidate in this race who has a proven track record as a lawmaker. For 6 years, I've been showing you what I'm about, what my values are, and what I'm able to accomplish. The second thing that I want you to remember is about lived experiences. I understand what this community needs because I am a part of this community and have been a part of this community for a long time. I'm from a working class background. I put myself through all of school and even worked as a domestic worker for several years. I spent several years cleaning pots and pans and toilets, and I thought about dreaming what's next, and I'm excited to keep working on that in Congress.
Thank you. And finally, we'd like to finish up with Takesha Martinez. Takesha.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm the mayor of Hagerstown, Maryland, which is the largest city in the Eastern Panhandle. It is also the largest city within Washington County. I was born and raised in Western Maryland. I went to Washington County schools. I was a part of the foster care system until I was 18 and a half. Now, why am I running for Congress? I'm running for Congress because I've been an active part of the community of Western Maryland since the day I was born, and I have 8 grandchildren right now. From 2000 to 2020, there was $40 million worth of investment and development within my city. From 2020 into 24, there's $400 million worth of investment. I know how to get it done. I know how to set at the table, and I know how to make sure that we always keep the bigger picture so that people down in the valley don't forget ever.
Thank you very much. And that's our opening statements. And now, well, I already gave you a tip-off for the first question. We're going to start back down here with Mr. Vogel to repeat the first question. One of the first things you'll have to do in Congress is, if you are elected, is be assigned to different committees in which you will work. Something that some of us often forget, but I'd like to ask these people here, each one of you, what committees do you think you would best serve under and why? You have 1 minute to respond. Mr. Vogel, we'll start with you.
Thank you. My choice would be energy and commerce. As I travel across the 6th Congressional District, we see how many communities are struggling because of the loss of jobs, the manufacturing plants that have just left. And we also look and we see a climate crisis before us that threatens our planet. In the legislature, I've been focused on taking those two issues and combining them, investing $7 million through a bill that just passed a few weeks ago that I sponsored, investing in climate tech startups that are doing the work, creating the jobs here in our state, and leading the way in making Maryland a player in climate innovation, allowing Maryland to play a leading role in solving the climate crisis while boosting our economy at the same time. I'm very proud to have the support of the Sierra Club because of my commitment to climate action, and look forward to continuing that work and continuing to grow our economy and address the climate crisis in Congress.
Thank you very much. I'd like to remind every candidate, if you'll tell me why you think you're best suited for those particular committees in your answer. Mr. Gluck, it's up to you. You're up next. George Gluck.
Okay, at the end of last year, when asked if you approve of Congress, 85% of folks disapproved, and it didn't matter all across the board. I'd like to be on the Rules Committee to make Congress work again, and hopefully I can fit this in. A few days ago, I read the rules of engagement for this forum and discovered a small anomaly. I sent it to Ms. Ahmad, who corrected it. For over half a century, I did this as a computer professional, avoiding such bugs before designing and programming computer solutions for my customers. Think about all the times you've had to upgrade your phone or laptop. The same is true for our Constitution, which may be considered United States 1.0. The framers immediately discovered errors and created the Bill of Rights, United States 2.0. Congress was created to handle new features like how to regulate electricity or the atomic bomb. They're also there to find and correct bugs. Please let me do that for you in Congress, for you, what I did for my customers all along, now including the Montgomery County Women's Democratic Club.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Mr. Mazumder.
Hello.
You are on. Which committees would you like to be on and why?
I used to work for energy, especially nuclear energy. So I like to be in the nuclear energy committee, which is where I was with almost all the nuclear energy group. And thank you for.
Thank you very much. And moving on, Bo, where would you like to? I'm going to call you Bo since you said everybody's got to call you Bo, so I'm going there. Right. If you don't want me to, just let me know right now.
Good, my brother.
All right,
okay,
go ahead.
Bo. I would. Okay, for me, I have a couple interests in a few, but education and labor, because of my labor experience of the last 16 plus years, I think labor movement has. Unfortunately takes a bad hit sometimes, but it also helps every other citizen, whether you're labor, union or non-union. Small business, as a business owner for a couple of different things in my life, tried to be successful with and had my ups and downs. I think there are rules and regulations that can be adjusted, or at least more outreach needed so we can expand within the 6th district. And then lastly, veteran affairs. I've had family since the Korean War who were in the military. I had in Vietnam as well. Then I had two brothers, and a cousin who were in the Gulf War. And working with the Government Employees Union, I've also seen firsthand some of the challenges that are currently facing the Veteran Affairs Division. And I think I'll be an asset based upon those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And moving on to Ms. Delaney.
I would say I wanted to be on the House Energy and Commerce Committee because for over 2 decades I've been channeling federal legislation through that committee, first through a Rockville-based satellite company when I was doing that. I worked on the 96 Telecommunications Act, but most importantly I worked for over 15 years with a nonprofit on kids' privacy, standing up to big tech, and dealing with also the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act and investment. Most recently I was a senior official at NTIA within the Department of Commerce and worked extensively with it in terms of investment into rural broadband, but also connectivity, STEM hubs, chips. And so much of that, of what we need in the 6th district really comes in terms of investment, but also in terms of working families and what we want to do and lift up in terms of servicing the district. So I have a lot of relationships there, a lot of experience there, and I feel I have a very good shot of getting that committee given my long tech background.
Thank you very much. Lorianne Sales.
So I'll be a little different. The 6th district is home to the largest ag reserve in the country. Agriculture is also the largest economic driver for the state of Maryland. We saw that during the pandemic, food insecurity plagued a lot of our families, from our young students to our seniors. And we need to ensure that our food systems are innovative and they are sustainable. We need to support our farmers because it's a dying breed. They are literally aging out of the profession. We need to invest more in our school systems to ensure that our students understand how to produce food and keep us fed in a sustainable way. It's also an opportunity to reimagine how we look at solar farms, wind farms. This is the area for the future sustainability of the state of Maryland and across the country. And we need to ensure that someone who already oversees the largest ag reserve in the nation is appointed to Congress to keep this conversation going.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peter Coharis.
So the first one is appropriations, which is what David Trone is on. He's in the top 10 of members of Congress bringing money into the district for infrastructure, and that's part of my plan for growing the economy of the 6th District by bringing in infrastructure, by bringing in community development finance institutions, by improving and expanding what's already a great community educational programs, and by lowering the cost of education. So appropriations is one. The second is it could be intelligence, armed services, or foreign affairs. I'm an expert in international law and the laws of war. I'm an expert in foreign policy. I've written dozens of articles in the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, the Washington Post. I've appeared in the BBC, CNN, dozens of media outlets. I've worked and traveled in dozens of countries worldwide. I've negotiated with ministers and even a head of state. And of course, I've worked in Asia and Africa. We are living in a dangerous world, and I want to bring that expertise to keep us safe.
Thank you, Mr. Ashwani Jain.
Yeah, I would say, well, first, it's not really up to us as freshman member of Congress which committees we get to serve in, but if I had the opportunity, Ways and Means or Ethics, Ways and Means because they handle all of our entitlement programs, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. I talk on the campaign trail a lot about having Medicare for all, extending the solvency of Social Security, making sure that we're eliminating premiums, deductibles, and co-pays for all of our residents while saving our economy hundreds of billions of dollars, helping us age in place and taking care of us who have a medical experience. And then also the Ethics Committee because money has corrupted the political process so much, even political campaigning. And so that's why on this campaign, all my events are free. I don't take any money from corporations, special interests, or PACs of any kind. And we're run by the residents of the district. And that's the type of mentality and approach that I would take in Congress and also if I have the honor of serving on any of these committees as well.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lopez.
Thank you. I would absolutely love to take Congressman Trone's place on appropriations. As been noted, he is a prolific appropriator. 1/4 of our state's transportation budget is actually the result of Congressman Trone being on that committee. And so I think bringing home money, particularly for transportation and infrastructure, is critical in this district and in this point in time. We know that Frederick County, all of Frederick is in this district. It's one of the fastest growing counties in the country and the fastest in our state. And the argument I would make for being there is that I'm a former congressional staffer. I spent some time on Capitol Hill. Collectively, I've worked for 27 members of Congress, so I know exactly what this job is. And one of those members is a senior member of appropriations. And so I understand the federal discretionary budget. It's boring, unwieldy, but I know I can show up on day one ready to roll up my shoulders and bring home money for this district.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we'll finish off with Takesha Martinez. Takesha.
Thank you. So as a mayor, a nonpartisan mayor in a very conservative county, I think that what I would like to be a part of is public safety and also affordable housing. Public safety, the reason why is as a mediator and a facilitator, I have a background of facilitating conversations between the police and the youth, also as well as between the community, elected officials, and all stakeholders, business owners, and all of that. I have 4 years of experience of doing that before even getting into politics. Everything is around public safety. When you live in Western Maryland, if you do not have the access to the things that you need, and you feel unsafe, you're not going to go to work. Also, I would say affordable housing, because we've been having a conversation about affordable housing forever. And I live in Western Maryland. I was once homeless. Right now, we're growing very quickly. And if we don't have the affordable housing and a very diverse number of ways to live, right? Hagerstown was very poor, $27,000 minimum income, and we don't have enough affordable housing right now. As a mayor, I believe Congress people should be talking to mayors, and that's what I'll do as a congressperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For our next question, we're going to start here with Bo, go out that way, and then we'll come to you, April, and then we'll move that way. I'm sorry you'll be last again, Takesha, but I promise you you'll be first the next time. So the next question is about bipartisanship. During the previous administration, and as going back as far as Newt Gingrich, there's been an increasing amount of lack of bipartisanship. The current administration has shown some bipartisanship, being able to pass a couple of crucial bills with the help of Democrats and Republicans. My question to each candidate is, do you support bipartisanship? How? And if you don't, why not? We'll start with Bo.
Yes, I definitely support bipartisan. Excuse me. I support bipartisanship.
How will you do it?
To me, it's very important. As I was raised, is you have to not only talk, you have to listen. You can have different points of view, different letters in your name, how much money you have in the bank, but we have to work together and talk. I understand sometimes that can be challenging, and sometimes people can rub you the wrong way or say things you don't agree with. But it's very important to get in front of folks. I grew up in a very diverse upbringing, metropolitan Detroit. Orthodox Jews, Middle Eastern folks, the very diverse Hispanic Latino population, who always welcome me in as we welcome them into our homes. And to me, it takes that. The first step is just talking to each other and listening, and then trying to find that common ground where we can. And if we don't agree, so be it. You don't have to agree with someone just to go along, just to get along, that unfortunately far too many people have done. And also knowing it's a blessing to have this opportunity to be here today, to have a good opportunity, possibly have employment in the Congress, and we have to make sure we utilize that and work together, not just for ourselves, but our communities at large.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mazumdar. Your answer to the question.
What is the question?
The question is, do you support bipartisanship in Congress? And if so, how would you execute it?
Yes, yes, bipartisanship I like. I will pursue that effort so that all bills goes through bipartisan approval. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Gluck, it's your turn.
Okay, I hope you'll.
I got to say, Mr. Mazumdar, you're very succinct. I appreciate that as a moderator. Go ahead, Mr. Gluck.
I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to expand that question. How many of us in the last presidential election, even the one before that, did not care for either of the main party candidates? There are an awful lot of us around the country that felt that way. I'm sure you'd all have liked, well, most of you would have liked, as I did, to have more choices. So bipartisanship is not necessarily the way to go. Nonpartisanship is the way to go as far as I'm concerned. That's a problem because of the way we vote. The first past the post voting means we naturally divide it into two groups which are opposite each other. So if we're up to me, we'd have ranked choice voting. I wear this fair vote pin. They're anxious to do that. More and more companies, local governments, even state governments have thought about doing that. And so that's what I'd like to see, not bipartisanship, but just everybody being able to, and then if you have ranked choice voting, we'll be able to get more choices, better choices for you to vote for.
I'm going to take I want you to clarify your answer, if you will. I'll give you 30 seconds to respond. You're saying nonpartisanship. If a Republican comes to you, you're not going to, you don't believe that you should listen to them, or you believe that you can co-opt them to believe what you believe? Please tell me what you mean.
Okay, not at all. I absolutely believe that. In fact, let me give you an example of that. Only 2 of us, and the other person is not missing, of the 16 of us that are on the ballot, only 2 of us went to the Frederick County Conservative Club Forum. I was the other one. So yes, I did listen, and I spoke to them about what I believed. And they thanked me for what I said. They didn't necessarily agree, but they thanked me. So yes, I listened, they listened, and do the same in Congress.
Mr. Vogel. I
Thank you.
still don't understand what that means, but I'll let that pass. Go ahead, Mr. Vogel. Go ahead. You have a minute.
Thank you, sir. Well, as a legislator, I've demonstrated a willingness and a capacity to work across party lines to get things done. There was a Baltimore Banner article recently about a bill that I worked on with one of my Republican colleagues to address the fentanyl overdose epidemic. I've passed bills with bipartisan co-sponsors, bills with bipartisan support. I will do the same in the United States Congress, but I want to be very clear about one thing. I'm all for seeking compromise, but we cannot compromise on our key values. I will never compromise on a woman's right to choose. I will never compromise on gun safety. I will never compromise on standing up for the most vulnerable people in our state and in our country. And in the legislature, I showed that we can do both. We can be tough and stand up against bigotry in the form of legislation while also working together with folks seeking that compromise to get things done.
Thank you very much. April, your shot. 1 minute.
I love this question. I'm absolutely for bipartisanship, and in fact, my campaign platform is common sense, common ground. And I think I'm the only one up here who's really actually put federal, had driven results and achieved federal legislation through that. When I was in nonprofit, I often used to say I was kid partisan. I go to Democrats or Republicans and I talk about kids issues. I talk about privacy. So it's very important to be able to take different stakeholders, public, private, nonprofit, and drive consensus to get things done, because that's what the American people want and that's what the people want in this district. I also agree that you have to stand firm for your values. You cannot compromise on choice. You cannot compromise on certain issues, as my colleague said, in terms of gun violence or different things. But you can perhaps advocate and start a dialogue and get a bite at the apple. I think that's the way our framers wanted it. It's progress incrementally, a bite at the apple, standing up for our progressive values and going forward. And it's meeting people where they are, hearing them, and talking to them. That's really important.
Thank you very much. Laurie?
Well, as the only candidate who has been a bipartisan legislator with the National League of Cities, recognized in 2020 during the pandemic as Legislator of the Year, ensuring the passage of Build Back Better to ensure that we were building back better, and that was done through bipartisan support. I had the support of my colleagues from all across the country to ensure that the laws that we were passing were in the best interests of the hundreds of city, towns, and villages across the country. And so I will continue those efforts, whether it's talking about police accountability and criminal justice reform with the sheriffs and the police. I was able to get that passed and ensure that all of our police officers were outfitted with body cameras across the state of Maryland. These are the same best practices I'll apply in Congress because I was recognized for them. I've been trained in them. It's ingrained in me to work across the aisle. As long as we're getting things done on behalf of the American people, that's how I will continue to lead.
Thank you very much. Mr. Coharis, your bite at the apple.
Thank you. Like everybody else, we want to get things done. Of course, I believe in bipartisanship if it's going to achieve things. All of us are claiming to have done something different. I know I'm the only candidate who has gotten bipartisan support under a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and with Donald Trump in the White House. And I did it not on one, but on two separate human rights issues. How hard do you think that was? But I kept persevering, and I kept looking for ways to engage members in ways that they would care about. For some in the Republican Party, it was about religious values and religious issues. For others, it was U.S. national security and regional security. For others, if it involved China, they were against it. I mean, for the human rights and against China. But I found ways to get things done. That said, I'm the only practicing lawyer, and I know I have an international background, but I'm a litigator as well. And I litigate in federal and appellate courts and trials all over the country. I know how to fight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jain.
Yeah, I think the reason why our campaign already has the support of Democrats, independents, and Republicans who can't even vote for me in the primary but are volunteering for us is because not only is 100% of my campaign run by the residents from this district and all 5 counties in the district, but every policy is backed up with nuance, with specificity. We talk about how to pay for everything, and you can compare all of our websites to look at that, and mine's at janeforcongress.com. But we're engaging voters in that process already. We're engaging the residents who are going to be impacted by all those decisions. We're also getting money out of politics. And it's not just about showing up, but how you show up. I spend 90% of my time, 7 days a week, personally meeting voters at their homes, going door to door. And I think that's why we've built those coalitions. And a specific example that I'll give about my past is I served as then Vice President Biden's Director of Outreach for something called the Cancer Moonshot, and we got Congress to pass the 21st Century Cures Act, which gave billions of more funding to the NIH and the FDA, and was bipartisan because we focused on the actual tangible issues and how to pay for everything and uplift our communities.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lopez.
Thank you. Yes. Well, as a lawmaker, I know that it is my job to deliver for my constituents. And that means delivering results by putting down my ego and rolling up my sleeves and getting to work. And if you are a lawmaker who is there to make laws and not one that is there to make noise, you will always find a partner with me, regardless of your party affiliation. Folks here should know that every single one of my bills for the past 6 years has passed with some sort of bipartisan support. It's easy to get bipartisan support for the common sense, kind of low-hanging fruit bills, but I've gotten bipartisan support from Second Amendment advocates on gun bills. I'm the author of the ban on ghost guns. It took me 4 years. I had to learn how to build and assemble an assault rifle so people would take me seriously, but I did it. And if you Google Senator Michael Huff ghost gun, you will see a Second Amendment advocate glow about this gun bill. And so that's kind of like the gold medal for bipartisanship, and that's how I would approach this role in Congress as well.
Thank you very much. Mayor Martinez, you have the last word.
So again, I am a nonpartisan mayor and a very, very blue city and a very, very blue county. And I'll tell you how I've already done it. Yes, so first of all, yes. Yes,
Thank
I will
you.
support nonpartisanship. But let me tell you how I've already done it. About 2 years ago, there was a seat for a mayor, and as a part of the elected body, as a councilwoman, we got to choose what way we would choose our mayor. That was the first decision we had to make. So we decided as an elected body that we wanted to choose one amongst the ranks. The next meeting, it was who wants to be mayor. 3 of us threw our name on the table for mayor. I sat with those 5 people, and I was one of 3. Both of the other 2 were council members that had been a part of the city council for 20 years. I walked out after 4 weeks of negotiations with a unanimous vote. I've already won against Republicans. I walked out with their vote to finish this administration as their mayor, as the first Black mayor of the city of Hagerstown. I was able to do that after I kicked in their door. And so when I say kicked in their door, whenever I was running for city council, I wasn't somebody that was sitting outside being nice. I kicked in the door to the mayor's office and made him have conversations with me. And then I became the mayor.
Thank you very much for kicking down the doors. I'm going to let you have the first answer. It's the next question. We're going to work our way down this way. This one may be a little more difficult for you, but we'll give it a whirl. We're going to increase the difficulty as we go along. Let's start with this. You are going to be, one of you will most likely be a congressman and have to go downtown, a congresswoman, congressperson, and will have to go downtown and represent this district in Maryland. What are the Democrats doing wrong in Congress? Let's start with you, Mayor.
Starting with me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll tell you what the Democrats are doing wrong. I sit at the table right now. I sit at the table as a nonpartisan mayor, and one of the things that is happening is not Republican or Democrat at the table. Right now, we represent a city that is growing very quickly. We represent a city that has more development, more grand openings than ever has had. And I'll tell you, we're not sitting there, and it's not Republicans arguing with Republicans and Democrats arguing with Democrats. It's money versus who doesn't. It's business, who has personal interests and who doesn't. And so what the Democrats are doing wrong is not pushing out the right message, and definitely not making sure that people that look like me and sound like me, and I'm not talking about being Black, and I'm not talking about being a woman. I'm talking about somebody who had to come through systematic things in order to be able to oversee my own city right now. I work with the people, I live with the people, and Democrats are not reaching me in Western Maryland, or I promise you I wouldn't be in this race.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lopez.
Thank Thank you. Yeah, so I am a Democrat for a lot of reasons, but it's because the principles of the party align with my own, and so I don't think we're on a wrong path when it comes to policy.
No, I'm asking you, what are Democrats doing wrong?
Oh,
Not
I'm
on the
getting
wrong
there.
path. What are they doing
I'm
wrong
getting
in
there.
Congress?
Don't worry, I got something to say.
Okay.
I think what we're doing wrong is that we're not strong communicators. We like to talk about details of plans and how plans will be rolled out, but we don't actually talk about the impact and the benefit on folks. What we are seeing across the country is working class folks from a background similar to mine voting for Trump. They're voting against their own interest, and it's not because our policies or our principles are wrong. We're just not communicating and connecting with folks as broadly and as intensively as we need to.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jane.
To answer your question specifically, I don't think Democrats, at least leadership, do enough to take bold, nuanced policy positions, right? You'll have Democrats who say we want universal health care, but do not support Medicare for all. They'll say we want to expand access to education, but will not specify making public college free and canceling student debt. They'll say we want to protect human rights, but will send unconditional aid even to our allies who are committing war crimes, right? You have people who say we got to get money out of politics, but then they only focus on fundraisers and raising the most money and having these outside of your district influences impact your race. And so that's true of both Democrats and Republicans, but we need to do a better job of electing candidates that are truly accessible, truly accountable, and truly transparent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coharis.
Well, I've been a Democrat all my life since I was knocking on doors as a 15-year-old. But we do a lot of things incorrectly. My father was a member of 2 unions, and for quite a long time, we stopped talking to people who actually work. I've been in policy meetings with officials and think tanks where people actually who work for a living, plumbers, electricians, people who open up shops, florists, are looked down upon. That's just the truth. That is something that people aren't stupid. The reason why they vote, quote unquote, against their interests is because they don't like being condescended to. And for a long time, before Joe Biden, we had a model of globalization is inevitable. Nothing we can do about it. So you know what? We will just do what I call Marie Antoinette's let them eat cake idea. We will just tax people at the highest income who are benefiting from globalization, and we'll give people social program. That's one thing that my friend and I, Ashwani, disagree with. My approach is grow the economy for everyone, not just talk about federal programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well,
as I explained in the rules beforehand, if you have mentioned one of your opponents specifically, I will allow 30 seconds for rebuttal. Ashwani?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, I don't think making sure that people have access to health care, making sure that they don't have food insecurity, making sure they have affordable housing, making sure that our money is spent wisely with accountability, making sure we're not committing war crimes, making sure that we have access to education, making sure that people aren't going broke by working 2 or 3 jobs. I don't think any of those are things that people don't need and want, and that's what I'm fighting for.
Thank you very much, Laurie. It's your shot at it. Laurie Ann, I'm sorry. You'll forgive me if I pronounce the names wrong.
No worries, Brian. I'll correct you.
I've been called worse. Go ahead.
So I believe Democrats are not electing Democrats with lived experiences. We need to ensure that the people we're electing actually have the experiences that reflect the people of the district, the people who live in the district and who know day in and day out what it takes to navigate the challenges across the district, what it takes to be a small business and wait for places like Cumberland to finish their economic development investments to revitalize their downtown, to understand what it means to be a homeowner and not be able to want to become a homeowner, but you're graduating and you can't afford to live in your neighborhood that you live in. We need to ensure that the people we are sending to Congress understand the day-to-day challenges that everyday Americans face, and that's when our Democrats will be a force to be reckoned with, and that's what I hope to bring to Congress.
Thank you very much. April?
First of all, I think that the Democratic Congress has been highly productive this past 2 years underneath Biden and has not gotten enough credit for all that they have done. And that's part
As
of
a
the problem.
Democrat, I'd be surprised if you said
and having
otherwise.
served in the administration, I don't think we lift that up enough. But I think a couple of things. One, I don't think we adequately communicate what we've done and why we've done it. And sometimes we have 1,000 flowers blooming, but then we don't tout those accomplishments and what they are actually doing in real people's lives, and how, and sometimes even with the bipartisan infrastructure laws, it's like it'll take a little bit of time to get there. But I agree with my my colleagues in that we also need to really focus on inflation, affordable housing, working families issues, and how we are going to address it and what we're going to do. And part of that is we do have the vision, but being more concerted about how we highlight that and how we go forward. I also think we need to take more time. We have not really properly put our role as Congress in the international context and how important we are as that shining beacon of light and how people view us overseas. And that's a really important thing we need to highlight for the American people.
Thank you. Bo?
Yes, sir. With the limited numbers and challenges Democrats had, they have done a lot of good things, but they also need to make sure they are sharing that message properly with the community at large as well. Making sure they're getting it from the communities that they serve, even if whether they vote for them or not, and then also pushing back on a lot of these false narratives. I know sometimes it can be stressful, you don't want to feel like you're beating your head against a wall, but they have to have more direct messaging about what is truly going on. And then also being honest about some of the positive and negatives that have occurred, because sometimes we understand we don't, as the old adage go, to put your business in the streets, but when you're serving someone outside of just yourself, you have to really be honest about, hey, where we can improve, areas of confusion, but also, you know what, I am listening to you. So I've definitely done a good job, but I think it's a lot of room to grow as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mohammed?
Sorry. I like to see the gun ownership should require security clearance, which the Republicans don't agree on it, I think. And the other thing, fund a small business to a small business that is required to increase employment and other things. Universal health care, 100% for all the citizens, which they don't want to see that. So those are my few questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. George?
So for me, the Democrats, Democratic leadership anyway, went the wrong direction. In '92, I gave then candidate Clinton time and money. But then the Democratic Congress and President Clinton signed NAFTA, sent 1 million jobs almost immediately overseas. From what I read, 70,000 from here in Maryland. And I recognized that Democratic leadership had gone the wrong way. They abandoned labor. And as we just said, finally, the president is coming back to labor because labor will again support Democrats not only with votes but with money, and therefore we won't need to have friends in high places that donate thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars. But we need to continue going in that direction.
Joe, your shot.
Well, first and foremost, I can't wait for Democrats to be back in the majority in the United States Congress and for Hakeem Jeffries to be the Speaker of the House. And I'm proud to have the support of a dozen members of Congress, Democrats in Congress right now. And when we take back the majority, we can't make the same mistake that we did before, which is be overeager to compromise and seek incrementalism to the point where we fail to advance gun safety legislation, right? We look at how many times Democrats have been in the majority in the House and the Senate and have had the presidency since Sandy Hook, but we still haven't passed an assault weapons ban. We have to act boldly on the climate crisis. We have to pass the Equality Act and the Women's Health Protection Act. We have to act unforgivingly and push forward on these bold agenda items. I'll add one more thing. There are more people on this stage right now than there are members of Congress under the age of 40 right now. Right? We complain so often about young people not engaging with the Democratic Party, but we fail to elect people to Congress that share their lived experiences and understand what they're going through. We have an opportunity to change that on May 14th.
Thank you very much. Our next question, we're going to ask you guys to actually separate yourselves from the pack a little bit. We're going to start here with April, and the question is, what policies do you support that set you apart from the other candidates you're running against today? You have a minute.
Sure. I have a lifetime of experience in communications technology. I helped start a national nonprofit called Common Sense Media that is in 120,000 schools with K through 12 digital literacy. But what's really important, I think, is how technology impacts us all, from AI to misinformation to screen time and the skyrocketing mental health crisis that we have with our youth. I have a particular emphasis on how we put bumpers and safeguards on big tech, but also use technology to drive further investment into Mountain and Western Maryland through a lot of the infrastructure funding, CHIPS, rural broadband, and I was number 2 at the agency that rolled out the $65 billion broadband across America. And so for me, I think it's really important that we use connectivity from rural broadband and also all of those infrastructure investments to really lift up lives here in the 6th District. And I think I have the most experience on that.
Thank you very much, Lori Ann.
So I'm the only one with public health experience. We need health in all policies. We know from the environment to our economy to healthcare, which is so expensive. We need to ensure that we are controlling costs and we are holding our drug manufacturers accountable. We also need to ensure we send a woman to Congress who will ensure we codify Roe v. Wade and ensure that women have bodily autonomy over their bodies and the decisions that they make. From the Medicare to Medicaid to how we are building our communities, we need to ensure that they're done in a healthy and sustainable way. We need to address environmental injustices that have plagued communities across the country, and we have to ensure that they are built to the highest standards. We also need to ensure that our workers have the best health care so that when they go to work, they are protected and can protect their families and their children. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Peter.
So I love Joe, but he has a really bad idea. He wants to increase taxes if you make $401,000 or more. I'm not saying that that's not a lot of money in many communities in the 6th District, but in northern Montgomery County, it's not a lot of money if you ever want to own a home. And we don't talk about, and this is the bigger criticism I have of the Democratic Party, we never talk about taxes. We only react when Republicans pass tax bills and we sit there and we grouse and complain. It's never an option, it's never a priority for us. How much money is not collected in potential receivables, that's called tax expenditures if you want to know, over a 10-year period? Does anyone know? Trillions of dollars. What are tax expenditures? Well, if you like them, they're incentives. If you don't like them, they're loopholes. But we're leaving trillions of dollars, and who understands this tax code? It is the fundamental moral code of our country. What we ask of American citizens and how we benefit or ask sacrifice from each other, it is completely not transparent. Nobody understands it. I don't think anyone else is talking about this. I am.
Well, hold on. I'm going to ask you a follow-up on that. You'll have 30 seconds to respond. You said that President Biden is doing it wrong. So I'd like to know what you think would be doing it right. Do you increase taxes at a higher level of income, or do you have another method to raise funds, because it's raising funds that is key to funding the U.S. government, and we're falling behind in that? So you got 30 seconds to respond.
30 seconds for a complicated tax. This is why I don't talk about it that much. No, it's not raising taxes. Believe it or not, it's lowering taxes. What? Yes. If you start eliminating in a serious way all of the exemptions that we've been giving to, one example, a mine in Montana, a nickel mine, $26 billion of non-taxation. They'll never pay, wait for it, a nickel. $26 billion of a tax incentive. That's crazy. Who's paying for that? All of you are, and I am. That, I think, is wrong.
You just talked about lowering taxes, but you're talking about getting rid of loopholes. That's two different things.
Right. You can lower the rates, which is what we all obsess about, and get
Lower
rid
the
of the
rates
special.
for who?
For everybody. That's the amazing thing. Trillions of dollars are being left out off the taxable rolls because of special interest loopholes. Trillions.
This is an evil. All right. Ashwani,
Could you repeat the question, please?
I've damn near forgot myself. What policy areas set you apart from the other candidates on stage?
Okay, got it. In terms of what policies separate us, I think I've been very clear. Medicare for all, canceling student debt, making public college free, having an actual living wage of $26 an hour by 2030, which equates to just $55,000 a year. It brings every worker's salary up to the national average. It helps reduce poverty and crime rates, increases the tax base and consumer spending, and also making sure that we're not sending unconditioned aid to any country, so we're actually upholding the current laws we have in place, whether it's Leahy law, the regulations from the Departments of Justice, State, and Defense, which supports our allies, but also make sure that we uphold humanitarian rights as set by the United Nations, the Department of Justice, State, and Defense. I'll also mention, because we're talking about differences, unlike half the candidates in this great race, I actually live in the district that I claim to care about, so I have a personal stake in what happens. I think that matters. 100% of my events are also free, and I refuse money from every corporation, every PAC, every special interest, and only focus on residents from my district to run my campaign and be a part of it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lopez.
Sure, thank you. So I think in terms of style, I've set myself apart as a lawmaker because I'm really good at building coalitions that are inclusive and that empower people. Those are bipartisan coalitions. It's people from geographically different places other than my own district. But in terms of policy, I think how I've set myself apart as a lawmaker has been introducing bills before they get to the point of critical mass, before they get to a point where people start to get really nervous about them. The first example I would give you was ghost guns. Like I said, I started 6 years ago working on that bill when people were tied to the idea of 3D printed firearms, and we knew that was not going to be the case. The other thing that I've worked on that now people are kind of starting to catch up on is deep fakes. I was a part of Health and Government Operations, which passed a whole package of bills on AI, but the one thing that we're still working on is deep fake porn, and when people take your image and use it for nefarious purposes. I've been working on bills like that for 6 years, and I would like to continue to as well.
Thank you very much, Mayor Martinez.
So I say public safety. I know for a fact that I'm the only one, and I said I would never say that, but I'm the only one sitting up here that has experienced trauma directly from police as a kid and going into the foster care system. Also growing up, going to go see family members in the prison system. I am the mayor in a county where right now we have four state facilities. And so, again, public safety in 2020. In 2022, I couldn't afford to be outside saying I'm marching with Black Lives Matters. I couldn't afford to do that because I'm a black woman that lived next door to a police officer, and the mayor at the time said I wanted police hunted and killed during 2020. And so what I know to be true is that nothing stops me from showing up, not even when my family feels threatened, because we live in it. We work in it. I can't hide from my people right now. I live with them, I work with them, I move with them. And I believe that the best thing for a congressperson is everyone should have to be the mayor first, and everyone should have to live in their area so that way they can argue why or why not they build a parking garage and not a homeless shelter first. And that way you have the humility to go into Congress.
Thank you very much. Bo.
Sure. Well, obviously, there are a lot of policies that are so important. Obviously, women's rights, protecting Social Security, Medicare. But for me, the most important is fighting for our democracy. Donald Trump and his political legislative cohort do not like white people. They do not like women. They do not like people of color. They do not like our republic or our democracy. And we cannot, if we don't have people in place to challenge those false narratives and lies that they present, and whether it's, we immediately need to support the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. I mean, all across the country, even in Montana, they're making changes to different laws on how people can vote, even in areas where they know it's more conservative rule, because if they can take that one or two people who are maybe a little bit moderate or open or leaning left, they can control everything. And that's what they're trying to do, which is negative. And people need to understand who exactly and what they are. And if we don't have a fair democracy and understanding of our republic, it doesn't matter all the things we want to do, that will not happen. And people have to understand exactly who these people are, and we have to fight for our democracy.
Hold on, I'm going to give you 30 seconds on this. I'd like you to tell me how. I don't think I heard a word out of your mouth that anyone here wouldn't agree with. What sets you apart from everyone else? What policies do you support that separate you from them?
Sure. Again, for me, is again taking that message head on. Sorry if I wasn't clear on that. Is taking that message head on about what voting and what democracy truly means. We take for granted a lot. For me, I want to fight to people understand this is not an easy answer. This is not something you can just kind of pass over. Well, I'm getting along and I'm okay. I travel to different parts of Europe where their taxes are double what we have, but yet they're bowing down to authoritative figures and thinking that's an option. For me, I want to show that what the facts are and the truth is, and that way you have understanding the blessing opportunities we have here and who we are in this country.
Thank you very much. Mohammed, what sets you apart from everybody else?
Pardon, what?
What makes you different from anybody else up here that's running?
One thing, my highest priority is to stop Israeli genocide.
To stop Israelis'
Genocide.
Okay.
The second highest priority is to expand mass transit with rail. And my third highest priority is to reduce inflation by expanding immigration.
Okay. Thank you. George?
So in 1963, I wrote my first computer program, which seems to imply, I would think, that I'm not less than 40, although I am at heart. And about 20 years ago, Congress did not know there were multiple accounting systems for the Social Security, the Medicare administration. And I worked as a consultant with a company that helped the government put out a proposal, which was won by a company. And I looked over the design of the new accounting system. And I made it, there were like millions of claim transactions a night. And if something went wrong, there wouldn't be enough time to redo it. So I looked at the design and places where it could be broken into three different areas, and it wouldn't take long to save the transactions twice. All right.
Thank you. Joe, you've got the last word.
Thank you. And I appreciate this question, but let's be honest. On a debate stage like this, we're all going to say we're the best candidate, and we're all going to more or less agree on the policy areas. What I just want to point out is
I'd
that
hope you won't say you're the worst, but go ahead.
Well, organizations that we trust that had rigorous endorsement processes that got to know all the candidates overwhelmingly supported me in this campaign. The teachers in the Apple ballot endorsed our campaign. The Sierra Club, the leading environmental organization, endorsed our campaign. The Teamsters Local Joint Council 62 and Unite Here and the Amalgamated Transit Union and several other unions endorsed our campaign. Why? Because I'm the best candidate on the stage when it comes to fighting for our schools and fighting for our educators and fighting for our students. I'm the best candidate on the stage when it comes to fighting for our environment. I'm the best candidate on the stage when it comes to fighting for working families and our unions. I've demonstrated that in the legislature, and now I have the stamps of approval to show that I have what it takes to do that in Congress.
So just to clear it up, what separates you on policy is that you're better than everybody else.
No, I've shown a record of legislative experience on policies and delivered student debt forgiveness for mental health professionals to recruit and retain more mental health professionals to work in our public schools. I've delivered legislation to help invest in climate technologies here in the state of Maryland. I've stood with our unions and working families repeatedly. I've showed I have what it takes in a legislative setting, and these organizations agree.
Thanks. Now we're going to move on to some issues. The first issue was brought up, I believe Mr. Jane brought it up. We're going to start with George, work our way down here. Mr. Vogel, you'll have the last word. As we work our way down, we'll come back to you. George, this is a simple question. I'm going to give you 30 seconds on this one because it really shouldn't be that hard to answer. Do you live in the district? And if so, for how long? And if not, why not?
Okay, so the simple answer is I don't live in the district, but I did until the district line moved 2 years ago. I was just inside the district 2 years ago, now just outside the district.
You got gerrymandered out of the district?
I got gerrymandered out of the district, yes.
Wow.
However, I still teach at all the same schools, concentrating on schools in District 6 in Montgomery County, 20 years, Frederick County, 10, 3 in Washington County, and now I just got accredited in both the other counties. So although, you know, I run, okay, I can run from my house to the district line in just a few minutes, even at my old age.
Well, we'll do that later. I need to put in my steps. Mohammed, how about you? Do you live in the district?
I live in the district for about over 30 years.
For 30 years. Bo?
Yes, I live in Frederick. Prior to Frederick, I was in Upper Marlboro, but prior to that, I was in Germantown. But now I'm in the Frederick area.
April?
I don't live in the district. I've lived in Montgomery County for 20 years, and the line keeps moving. But I will say that I live right next to Congressman Trone, and I think he is the blueprint for it. I think the key part is that I know this district, I've well traveled it, and I think what is key is it's such a large district of 5 counties. It's that you show up, you have incredible constituent services, and that you deliver for it. That's the more important thing, is that you actually, given the scope and breadth of this district, that you know the district, you show up like Congressman Trone, and you are there day in and day out.
Thank you very much. Lorianne?
So I live in the district. I've raised my daughter in the district. I've taught at Gaithersburg High School and have represented the district as a member of the Maryland Municipal League's Legislative Committee. I also represent over 40% of the electorate across the district currently. So yes, I bought my first home in this district. A lot of firsts happened in this district, and hopefully that trend will continue.
Peter?
So like George and April, I did live in the district, and now I don't live in the district because of...
Have you moved? Or
No,
they
because of
moved
the
you?
Supreme Court, which changed the lines. And everyone who does live in the district now may not live in the district in another 6 years. That's the nature we have, especially in this swing district. So April's also right. What's important is who's a small business person who can grow the economy. This district has elected a small business person for the last 12 years, who's a fighter, a trained litigator, and has a record of success doing that, and who will keep you safe, who's an expert in national security and foreign affairs. That's what I intend to be.
Thank you, Mr. Jane.
As I've mentioned many times, I do live in the district, and I can also vote for myself. My name is going to appear on my ballot. I'm not going to have a different member of Congress representing me if I'm elected to serve in Congress. I think that matters. In addition to how we run the campaign, my team and I have canvassed more than 72,000 individual voters across the 6th district, and a 100% run by residents from the district as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lopez.
Thank you. So I live in the district. I've lived here for 8 or 9 years, which is a part of your question some folks are not answering, by the way, the length of time that we've lived here. But I've represented this district for 6 years. My children go to school here. I own a home here. People have voted for me in this district 4 times, and I'm hoping that they will vote for me a 5th.
Mayor?
So I do live in the district. I am, and I've been in the district. I am 46 years old. I've been in the district for 40 of those years. I left for a short period of time, moved to Baltimore. I always say I'm born and raised in Hagerstown, but grew up in Baltimore. Lived in Baltimore, walked into an open mic for the first time at 33, found my voice, came back to Hagerstown, started open mics, been back in Western Maryland for the last 15 years, and I don't think that I'll ever get gerrymandered. I mean, redistrict line drawn for me out of the district because I'm dead smack in the middle.
Open mic?
Open mics, yes.
Comedy?
Poetry.
Poetry. Okay. I just wanted to find out. Joe, you got...
Thank you. I live in Gaithersburg, lived here for about 1.5 years. My family immigrated to the United States when I was 3 years old, grew up in Rockville, just south of the district, but moved here. I do have a problem, though, which is as I travel across this district, people really want me to move there, so someone sent me a screenshot of a house listing in Cumberland earlier this morning. Some folks in Frederick were encouraging me to come live there, but I'm going to stay in Gaithersburg and continue representing this district from the city of Gaithersburg.
You're not into, like, real estate. You're not trying to, that's not a side hustle there,
I'm
right?
not looking for, I don't think I can afford a home right now, but thank you.
Just checking. All right. We're also we're gonna next mix this up. Let's see, you had Ms. Lopez, we're gonna start with you for this question. Again, on issues, immigration. Until 1985, while it was illegal to cross illegally, it was legal to hire people, and the Simpson-Mazzoli Act in 1985 got rid of that. In the ensuing 40 years, no one's been prosecuted for it, And Congress, while we make big noise about what's going on, both Democrats and Republicans are responsible for this continuing mess of the last 40 years. And I'm saying that as a reporter who's had to cover it for 40 years. So what I want to know, it used to be Democrats and Republicans talked about pathways to citizenship. That was moved. Now we're talking about walls and armies. I want to know what you want to do about immigration and what we're doing wrong and how you would do something about it. Remembering, of course, that you will be a freshman congressperson. I remembered it this time. Going in. Ms. Lopez.
Yeah, a lot to answer in 1 minute, but I'll tell you.
Yeah, I may give you longer if I like it. Go ahead.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And so I mentioned before I worked on Capitol Hill. I actually worked for Congressman Henry Cuellar of Laredo, Texas, who has a district that's right on the U.S.-Mexico border. And I also worked for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. And I worked there during the last time we actually had comprehensive bipartisan immigration reform. That was 2013 with the Gang of Eight. And so I would love to pick up where we left off and work on getting a pathway to citizenship or a pathway to legal status at the very least for those 11 million folks who are paying taxes and contributing to our economies and our communities. And I also think that there is a need for border security. We have to make sure that the border communities are safe and thriving, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Mr. Jane.
So at janeforcongress.com, you can actually find my comprehensive immigration reform platform, which starts with combating this false narrative from the other side that says we have an open border and immigrants are just flooding in, bringing drugs and all these horrible things. It's false, and as Democrats, we have to fight against that
What
narrative.
part of that is false?
I'm sorry?
What part do you say is false?
That we have an open border. We actually do have a system that needs to be improved.
Okay.
And so the improvements that I talk about are making sure we have a pathway to citizenship, making sure we're expediting work permits, making sure we're ending the use of private prisons to house immigrants so we actually treat them like human beings, making sure we end local programs like 287G, which force local law enforcement to act like federal ICE agents for nonviolent offenders. They should not be doing that at Rhodes Community Trust. But also understanding that immigrant issues are not just about immigration reform. We also need to invest in more ESL, or English as Second Language, programs in our public schools, making sure that we actually have comprehensive education reform and healthcare reform. And again, you can go to janeforcongress.com to find those details.
Where was that again? No, I'm kidding. Go ahead. Peter.
janeforcongress.com.
Peter, your shot. If you want to plug, go ahead.
PeterForMaryland.com. Coharis is hard to spell. Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm an immigrant. My wife's an immigrant. My sister's an immigrant. All my in-laws are immigrants. I believe passionately in defending people who come to this country and making sure they're treated with dignity and respect. I am not poison, as a former president called me and my wife. My children are not the product of poison. As you can tell, I get upset, I get angry, it's personal. I will defend people who currently don't have someone advocating for them. Governor DeSantis and Governor Abbott are planning, I just talked to somebody in the White House, they're going to take human beings and ship them to Chicago during our convention because they think that'll be funny, because they think that'll get good publicity for their cause. They're the ones holding up the border bill. They're the ones not letting their own damn bill get passed by the House and sent to Joe Biden for his signature. I would add the DREAM Act. I'm passionate about that. Of course I will promote that. And finally, we have to talk about North-South. We always talk about South-North and people. What about weapons and money for drug cartels going south? 90% of the weapons in Haiti come from the United States. We've got to stop that part of the border as well.
Thank you very much. Lorianne?
So as the daughter of Jamaican immigrants, immigration is so important to me. I wouldn't be here without the sacrifices my parents made to achieve the American dream. We need to ensure compassion is central to any legislation that's able to be passed. Currently in the House, there's a bipartisan bill for a pathway to citizenship to address immigration. There's also been a bill introduced in the Senate. We just have a do-nothing Congress who will not get this done. For over 40 years, we've been trying to deal with the immigration challenges, and we need to ensure pathways to citizenship. I've worked on the DREAM Act in the state of Maryland because they couldn't get it done at the federal level. We need to ensure that the people who seek refuge at our borders, who seek asylum, have an opportunity to work here. They pay taxes here. They should be able to build opportunity for themselves and their families. We just saw the tragedy that happened to the young men who were who were killed by the devastation in Baltimore. We need to ensure that the people who live here, who do not come here I will continue.
I was going to let you finish the sentence.
Okay. We need to ensure that the people who work here and live here who do not have citizenship have an opportunity to get citizenship. We cannot continue to operate in the vein that we are in, and we need to treat people with
one sentence.
Dignity and humanity.
One sentence.
I can go on and on forever
no,
on this
I won't
topic.
let you do that.
Thank
I
you.
was going to let you finish the sentence. Okay, April, your turn.
America is a land of immigrants. I mean, we have come together. We are a diverse melting pot and are enriched by it and by the people who come here. However, comprehensive immigration reform has been, since 2013, we almost had a deal on the border, and then it wasn't brought by Boehner because the far right decided to act against it. We have now a bipartisan immigration bill, which would give more security at the border, would help with dealing with a lot of our different technologies and upgrading that, giving visa pathways to citizenship. We should pass that bill. And it would, I think, have passed had it not been political fodder for Trump and using as a football. So that must be one of our key issues, is to drive forward on that. I also agree that we need to have more resources for those who do come here at the border. We've got to take care of these children and have a pathway for dreamers, but also for those that cross the border, that we are humane, that we help them, and that we are very clear about our asylum and help them through it. And I have been at the border interviewing women and children coming across the border, and it is it's tragic, the circumstances from which they are fleeing.
Thank you very much. Bo.
Sure. Obviously, we know our native and indigenous folks are only folks who are truly non-immigrants. Obviously, we had forced immigration of Africans who came here, but then obviously during slavery, what slaves had built here and was forced to do. The Chinese building the railroads on the West Coast, the Irish on the East Coast when we were going through developing our country. If so many people like to utilize these negative views of like everybody's coming here is coming to smuggle their drug, or either they're sex traffickers, and we know there are negative folks in all races and all creeds, but majority of people come here for an opportunity for themselves and their families. I've seen that firsthand growing up in Michigan from Middle Eastern folks who I worked at one of their party stores who I grew up next to, and they had like 5 or 6 people in a room living together because they want to have a better life. We have to have honest conversations. We have to also hold our Democrats accountable as well, because they play into some of these things too, and because they like to have that as a talking point instead of trying to solve this. We are a nation of immigrants, and we must continue to remember that and embrace all who are trying to be here fairly.
Mohammed?
Yes, immigration is a great thing. I like to have more immigration in this country. I am an immigrant. I became a scientist with the U.S. Department of Energy, and just education and knowledge helps me to go up from immigrant to the highest position. My second highest mass transit with rail and metro. My third highest priority is to reduce inflation by expanding immigration. Immigration helps to reduce immigration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. George?
Okay, I'm an immigrant myself. I came here at the age of 16 months. With my parents. My parents lived the American dream. They didn't become rich. They died on Social Security, but they saw their children become middle-class citizens. And that's the American dream as far as I'm concerned. We attract people here because of the wealth of the country and the American dream. I should indicate in 2018 at a forum, I introduced a new slogan for the campaign, which is "Make American Good Again," good in capitals and bold, this time for all of us spelled out black, brown, yellow, red, and other colors. I'll go back before the 80s to make things better so that not only are people attracted here, but they're not sent here, you know, the carrot here, but the stick further south. Kennedy, during Kennedy's era in the 60s, there was an Alliance for Progress that started to make things better for them in their home countries.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. Well, as an immigrant, my family immigrated here when I was 3 years old. I'd be the first immigrant elected to Congress, the first Latino elected to Congress in the history of our state. Sorry, the first immigrant in over 200 years, I should clarify. And this is personal, not just because of that, but because of what I've seen as a legislator. Shortly after I was elected, I got a call about families that were staying at a motel in Rockville that had been bussed up by Greg Abbott and ended up here in our community. And what I saw there was devastating. Women who were leaving their children to take care of themselves in a hotel here in Rockville as they went and walked up Rockville Pike trying to find jobs. That is how broken our system is right now, and we're not immune to it here in our community. And what our asylum seekers are going through, the pain at the legal jeopardy that they're in constantly because of what a judge decides to do here or there, that has to stop. I'm going to be a champion for the American Dream and Promise Act, proud to have the support of the sponsor of that bill, Congresswoman Linda Sanchez. My first day in Congress, I'll co-sponsor that bill. Let's give DACA recipients, dreamers, the dignity that they deserve once and for all.
Thank you very much. Takesha, you get the last word on this one.
Thank you. So my name is Takesha Martinez, and grew up in Washington County. And the reason why is because my grandfather in the 50s came from Jefferson County, moved to Washington County, married a widow with 7 sons, married her, and then had my mother and another uncle afterwards. And so my mother is the youngest and the only daughter with 8 brothers. And so Martinez, he was a Cuban immigrant. He worked very, very hard. He was the only Boy Scout leader at the Mason-Dixon Lawn Council, which was the black troop. And I believe that there needs to be a pathway to immigration, and then we also need to celebrate all of the success that immigrants have done. Again, her mom passed away with me in the bed at 9 months old. My mom went into, she didn't recover. She didn't recover. She had a nervous breakdown. And so that's why I was in the foster care system. And I believe that had my mom had the strong system support around her from a father that was a Cuban immigrant and a mother who was a widow before with 7 sons, I believe that none of my life would have happened the way that it did. But I'm thankful that it did.
Thank you very much. Next question, we're going to start with Muhammad. We're going to work down this way, and George will have the last word as we do it. James Carville once said, "It's the economy, stupid." And at the same time, Robert Reich, you all know who he is, former member of a Democratic administration, said that what we're suffering today is from greedflation. Whatever you want to call it, inflation is a large problem for American consumers. What would you do? What do you think are the ways to handle the problem? And where do you think we're going wrong? So 2 questions, minute each. Muhammad, you're first.
We can stop inflation by reduce inflation by expanding immigration. We are nowadays employers are not getting enough people to hire because the rate is so high. So they want inflation. So inflation will help reduce immigration and expand mass transit. What is the other question? What is the other question?
Oh, I'm sorry. The question is, what is the cause and what is your solution?
Solution is hire people, immigrate, give more immigration to lowest to highest, different categories of immigrant. And I think immigration is necessary to have the inflation under control. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bo,
Yes.
causes of current inflation and your proposal for solution.
Sure. To me, one of the main causes, obviously, we know what we went through with COVID. And I was having a conversation with someone recently about if we did not think, like whether it was oil companies, airlines were not going to try to make a lot of their money back, correct? So again, we also have employment shortages, and by us, and also from the outsourcing of just different job opportunities and not significant growth of wages over the last 20 to 30 years. Now everything is hitting us at once. What I would like to do is try to provide other alternative education resources, which is then turn into employment and create different opportunities for folks who necessarily maybe don't even understand why they have a high interest rate or what their credit card means or how to read their credit reports. All these things go hand in hand, and we have to be a little more, say, cost or money management wise, which I think a lot of us aren't in the positions to do a lot, but that in turn we need to understand is an option we can try to grow. I want to try and grow and develop, provide further information to our citizens on how, when times are hard, how to try to save, but also know where these factors truly come from.
Thank you, April.
Well, we've had so many successes within the administration and in Congress over the last 18 to 24 months. Voters and the central issue in this election will really be inflation, and they can't afford a house, they can't afford the rents, and they can't afford some of the food at the grocery store. I think that it's a nuanced issue because a lot of inflation is obviously within the realm of the Fed, but I think we in Congress and with the administration, I think it's working on, as they have in terms of pushing back on junk fees with credit card companies. It's on helping with negotiating in terms of drug prices and prescription prices with big pharma. It's looking at how we can improve a good living wage, not only increasing the minimum wage, but how we can look at figuring out how to create more economic investment and good opportunities. And also looking at affordable housing in terms of, the president and also Congress is looking at ways we can, help with tax subsidies for building more affordable housing, looking at looking at ways that we can, help
in front of the water bottle
buyers with their first-time house. It's a complicated and nuanced answer.
Thank you very much, Laurie Ann.
So this is the first time I've heard greedinflation, but I would agree. Greedflation, it's greed. We need to ensure that if wages actually kept up with inflation, the dynamic would be so different. We need to ensure that our students are learning financial literacy so that when they graduate and they go to college, they actually understand what it means to take out a loan, what it means to balance a checkbook, and how to navigate the economy. We need to support our small businesses, the biggest job creator in our economy. If they fail, we will continue to fail. We also need to ensure that we are bringing manufacturing back to America. We just cut the ribbon on a business right up the road that brought 400 jobs right back here. We need to ensure that we are investing in biotech and we are more competitive. We are not going to win this economy if we do not outpace our competitors across the ocean. And so we need to grow our workforce here and invest in our workforce here.
Peter.
Okay, there's a lot to this. So one of the reasons why I talked about tax reform is, and make it more transparent, is also to get more compliance, more money, depending on whom you read, 10 to 15% off the table. We can't be raising taxes on middle-class people or even upper-middle-class people at a time with increased inflation. Secondly, we've got to worry about energy and making sure that we have access to energy, not only domestically but overseas. A couple of things that the Biden administration is doing correctly. One, April mentioned about drug prices fair but not price gouging. Another is they're looking into antitrust with respect to food prices. That's important too. Something nobody's talking about, everyone's obsessed about interest rates, money supply. Between the Fed, I think we're still above 10 trillion in terms of money. The European Central Bank, the Japanese, there's way too much money floating around this world. What does that do? Well, if you're wealthy and have assets, it's called asset appreciation. Everybody loves it. But if you're not wealthy, it's called inflation, and it's hurting average people. So we need to talk about that as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jane.
Thank you. So we have to lower the cost of living, we have to expand our tax base, and we also have to reduce poverty. Now, there's a few ways to do that. One, you have to protect workers. So I support the PRO Act and supporting collective bargaining rights, making sure that workers have the right to unionize and fight for the rights that they deserve, making sure we actually have a living wage. If wages kept up with inflation, we would be at around $26 an hour, which brings up every worker's salary to the national average of $55,000 a year. That's one of my proposals, making sure that we're actually expanding the tax base, reducing poverty and crime, reducing those who live off welfare programs, and getting them actual living wages, making sure we have universal child care, universal pre-K, access to higher education, making sure we tangibly have affordable, available, and accessible housing, and making sure that the wealthiest pay their fair share. I've been supporting a plan by Senator Elizabeth Warren that imposes a 2% tax on net worth of over $50 million. Doesn't touch taxes for any of us and fully pays for a lot of the programs that I've been talking about. And making sure that if you earn income on taxes, you're actually getting taxed on that as well.
Thank you very much. We do have a hand raise. Ooh, okay, we're going to give you 30 seconds, Peter, for rebuttal.
Okay, quick rebuttal on that. Elizabeth Warren is my senator. I don't mean to diss her when she's not here to defend herself. It's never going to happen, folks. It's a lie. We're not going to get a tax on wealth. Why? 16th Amendment. It's an income tax. If you think this Supreme Court is going to interpret income as wealth, you're just living on another planet. And don't take my word for it. This term, the court is looking at something called deferred income in a case called Moore v. United States. It's not going to happen. We have to be honest about real tax reform and not just tell people what sounds good.
Okay, Peter, I'm going to ask for a clarification. Elizabeth Warren is your senator?
I'm originally from Massachusetts, so she's
okay,
my
but
senator.
You are you reside in the state of Maryland.
I just didn't want to insult the woman because she was.
Okay, I got it, but you said she's your senator. I'm going, whoa, all right. I just want to clear that one up.
I've got.
You do live in the state of Maryland, right?
Okay, you got me. You said you didn't want to have a gotcha moment. You got me.
Okay.
I'm from originally Massachusetts.
All right, that I understand.
I'm from Maryland. I have two great senators. One's retiring, and we got to make the other one a blue senator as well. Okay. I'm going to be fighting no matter who the nominee is for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Lopez, your turn.
Thank you. So let's see. I went to a debate of sorts with one of the Republican frontrunners a couple weeks ago, Neil Parrott, and inflation is one of the issues that came up. And it was so interesting to me to hear from the conservative folks in the audience just how differently they see this problem. And so the first thing I would say is that any solution towards dealing with inflation is going to require a lot of bipartisan outreach because culturally the Conservative Party just sees things differently. These are some things that I think would fit the bill. One is shoring up our supply chains, lowering energy costs, and supporting small businesses and growth. In terms of lowering the cost of living, something that we haven't addressed here today is affordable child care. That's a huge burden on working families, in addition to housing affordability. Another thing that hasn't been brought up in terms of inflation yet is the Trump tax cuts. They're about to expire in 2025, and so I don't think they should go to the wealthiest folks anymore. I think if we're going to do any tax cuts, it needs to go to middle class and working families.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, and so not long after I got elected to city council and got the budget, I looked at, first of all, how much the budget was. Then I looked at how many nonprofits are 501c3 that do not pay into the general fund. And so one of the things that I think that the questions, there was two questions, what would you do and where are we going wrong? First of all, what would I do is I would work very closely with local government, municipal government, the city council, the local elected officials, and the reason why is because there's people right in community that just need a lifted hand. And a lot of nonprofits, especially in conservative counties, have a very high overhead that does not reach the people to the street. One of the things I said was within the city of Hagerstown, Washington County, we have 800 nonprofits. Part of a homeless coalition, we have 800 families. Why doesn't every nonprofit take one family and we go ahead and deal with it there? The reason why is because it's not designed that way. And so what we're doing wrong is we're putting too much money into nonprofits that do not have enough people that look like me, sound like me, at their table to help, that have the lived experience that can help them make the right decisions to meet the people outside. And that way that everyone's not getting rich in nonprofit and owning the land that nonprofit now, it's all a mess. It's a mess. And in rural counties and in areas.
Going to ask you to stop. That's all right. Not that I didn't like the answer. I'm just Joe, your shot.
Thank you. And we need a two-pronged approach here, right? We need to reduce costs for working families, expand access to childcare, lower the costs of healthcare, expand access to accessible housing, right? We also have to recognize that greedflation is not an accident, right? The corporations have had too many friends in Congress for way too long that have written the rules for them. We have to take on the monopolization that we're seeing. We have to take on these anti-competitive practices. That's why my campaign does not accept money from corporate PACs, because we have to cut that tie. It's enough of corporations telling Congress what to do. It's time to tell Congress, it's time for Congress to tell corporations what to do, and for there to be champions for working families in the United States Congress who are going to fight to lower the costs of living for the American people.
Thank you very much. George, you've got the last shot.
Okay, so clearly agree with what was said before, but I'm old enough to have had a course in economics in high school where we learned that inflation. Yes, they don't.
You're a young man. Stop it. Go ahead.
We learned that inflation was an economic concept, that dealt with supply and demand and the Fed and other things. So, but the prices, the higher prices we're paying right now, from what I've read, maybe a quarter of that can be caused by inflation. The remainder of it is being done. Why? Because the owners of the companies can raise prices. There's not enough, as was said, there's not enough competition. Why are they doing that? So they can give dividends to the other owners of the companies, including themselves, because over the past few years, they've been paid not so much by money, but by stock. And also, they want to buy back the stock, so the values of their stock goes high. So that's what we're paying for in the new higher prices.
I want to thank you all for your answers, but this begs another. We've got our last section. We want to talk a little bit about the purple and blue characters of the district and some of your personal things, but I can't leave this issue without asking, and I want just a 30-second from each of you. I heard a little bit of it down here, but I haven't heard much of it. We have, in the last quarter, had record corporate profits in the United States. And while you're talking about all the causes of inflation, what the hell are you going to do about record corporate profits? And to your point, Peter, about taxes, the richest Americans don't pay taxes. What are you going to do about that? Because most of the people sitting out here look and go, you're in Congress, what are you doing for me if you're not going to defend us against the corporations? I thought this was a layup when I threw this question out here, but I still haven't had anybody really address that. So I'd like to give you all a chance to address that, and I'm going to start with Mr. Jane. We're going to work down. Oh, wait a minute. You already went first, didn't you? Did you go first once? I don't remember. I think you did? All right, so then I'm going to let Peter start first, and we'll work down that way, and then come back. Peter, 30 seconds.
Well, 30 seconds. I have the intellectual background and the courage to stand up to my party and stand up to our current president, whom I love, and say, no, on this one, you're wrong. Why don't wealthy people pay taxes? Because we only talk about income taxes in this country. We don't talk about the fact that most wealth is accumulated through passive income. They're not W-2 employees. And so we've got to be honest with the American public. That's what I'm trying to do. And I've talked about that today without prompting, because it's a key issue for us. And that's what I've done. And that's what I will do in Congress.
Thank you very much. Lauren? Yeah, we're going this way.
So when I talked about greed, I'm talking about corporate greed. The American people weren't bailed out. Corporations were bailed out. We need to institute a millionaire tax. If you're making over $1 million, you need to pay a higher tax. We need to ensure that our corporations are paying their fair share. And that's the only way we are going to level the playing field.
April?
We absolutely, and we actually need to raise corporate tax. I mean, it went to 21% of the Trump administration. They were asking for 27. We have to raise, they should pay more of their fair share. We should look at how capital gains is taxed, because you should not, you should pay the same rate as working as passive assets. I think that's a big issue. We should close loopholes. There's a lot of loopholes, and we should fund better the IRS to go after a lot of those who are tax cheats. I didn't mention one thing also. We should really look at the child tax credit and make sure that we reinstate that, because that really helps a lot of people out of poverty, and there are a lot of great, affordable that's good for now.
You can, okay. I was going to let you finish the
Well,
sentence.
yeah, but there are a lot of policies in terms of livability for daycare that are being proposed and helping with rent as well.
Thank you. Bo?
Sure. Cap bonuses and incentives for upper management or board members who, again, their goal is to increase their stocks and have higher prices, which in turn is passed on to us. But yet, when someone wants to have a better wage, then somehow they're asking for too much because they want to go on vacation or take their kids to school. But also, again, it's just a tough one. The tax loopholes, which once again, it was included in one of the infrastructure about having more IRS agents hired, but then folks pushed back on that. So we have to have honest talks about what people are getting away with, and we have to have limitations. Thank you.
Mohammed? You need to pick up that mic, sir. There you go.
We need to increase immigration to stop inflation. Immigration is a top priority nowadays, but immigration is needed to get more employee. So, I'd like to see immigration to increase. Thank you, instead of stopping.
Thank you, George.
So I didn't explicitly mention the large profits, but there has been in our history a taxing of excess profits, which we can bring back again. And also, one of our presidents actually froze price and income increases. And that president was not a Democrat, it was Richard Nixon.
Don't get me started. Go ahead, Joe.
I serve on the Revenue Subcommittee and the Ways and Means Committee in the legislature and have voted to close corporate tax loopholes through combined reporting. I also just want to point out a few more things. I think we should restrict stock buybacks. There's legislation in Congress to do that. I think we should ban members of Congress from being able to purchase individual stocks. I think we should pass the PRO Act, and we need a corporate tax, a higher corporate tax, but we also need a higher global corporate tax to avoid the leakage that we've been seeing for far too long.
Thank you very much. Mayor?
Yeah, so brand new stadium's being built in my city. I love it. I can't wait. It opens next week. I'm so excited, but I have to say this. $90 million was given to 5 investors from the Maryland Stadium Authority, which was free money. They do not have to pay it back. And then we sit around and we blame the local government of why there wasn't a shelter built or why there wasn't showers or why we don't have good police or why we haven't done this and we haven't done that. And the reason why is because of the structure. And so one of the things that I would like to do, being born and raised in Washington County, I'd like to go to Congress and be able to represent the people like myself that had to fight their way to the top just to be able to understand it. People perish because of lack of understanding and lack of knowledge. And we need to stop trying to take care of the people and empower them to take care of themselves.
Leslie?
Thank you. So I started to talk about the Trump tax cuts expiring, so I appreciate the opportunity to revisit that. It is clear that our country needs to revamp our tax laws and do what we can to put a progressive tax structure in place. We have something like that, and I mean progressive not in just politically progressive, but progressive in terms of how the formulas work. The other thing that people haven't talked about yet is just fully funding the IRS to go after tax cheats. This has become a political football in a very partisan Congress. And so if the wealthiest folks actually paid what they owed, we'd have $160 billion circulating in our economy. And so we got to make sure we have IRS agents to go after the tax fraud cheats.
Ashwani, I'll give you the last word, and then we do have a rebuttal, but go ahead.
Yeah, as I mentioned in my earlier remarks on this issue, making sure that we have a fair tax code and people are paying their fair share. That's why I spoke about Senator Elizabeth Warren's plan. In addition to that, I talk about lowering the cost of living, making sure that actual workers have their wages increased as well to match the productivity that our economy has seen. So it's not just the wealthiest CEOs that are increasing their profits and not passing it down to the consumers. And also making sure that we, for example, lift the earnings cap to extend the solvency of Social Security so that those making over $250,000 also have a payroll tax that is equivalent to what the rest of us are paying.
Thank you. And let's see, anyone else on rebuttal? Peter, you've got 30 seconds.
Yeah, so you've heard closing loopholes, raising taxes on the rich, raising rates on corporations. We've been talking about that for decades, folks. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. We have to do something much more fundamental that I have both the courage and I think the intellectual background to push through. And I've referred to it before. I'm not going to repeat myself. Something the mayor pointed out, which is also crazy. We are giving away money, and I love Joe again, but I'll stand up to him on this. We need sovereign wealth funds and get equity. Why are we giving Samsung $6 billion under the CHIPS Act? We need to get equity for that investment. Same thing for the $90
Hold on there,
billion.
young fella. That's the stop sign. And before we go forward, I want to ask you a question related to what you said, April. You said it's not getting done, but we used to have a higher tax rate for corporate America. Do you oppose reinstituting a higher tax rate for corporate America? To Peter, because he was the one who said that we can't get it done. We did get it done. Are you saying it can't be done now?
What I'm saying is even better, and you don't believe me, you simplify the code.
I'm just asking the question.
No, we don't have to do that. With corporations, of course, we simplify the code. We get corporate taxes. Right now, corporations, by means of accounting and other tax code loopholes or even mechanisms, don't pay taxes. It's not just a function of raising rates. It's a function of simplifying the code, getting access to income that otherwise isn't available. That's key to compliance.
Thank you, timekeeper. 30 seconds. Anybody else want to chop in on that?
I actually, this is a very nuanced issue when you get into tax policies and what have you, but I do think that there is a real shot of, particularly if we flip the House, that we can look at raising some of the corporate taxation. And also, I think it's really important, something I didn't say earlier, is how the future of work with digital and our digital companies that are not paying, like in e-commerce and all sorts of digital companies that are displacing brick and mortar types of stores and those jobs, and yet aren't paying any types of taxation on it. And I think there is a big window of being able to do that in e-commerce.
And I'm going to say, as a reporter who talks to members of Congress every day, I think there is room to do it both on the right and the left. So that's why I asked the question, and it leads me into this next question. I'll let you guys, given the purple but more red than blue character of District 6, yeah, no, purple people eaters. How does your profile, sorry for all you Viking fans, how does your profile and message beat the Republican nominee? We're going to start out with Lorianne. You haven't been able to go first yet, so it's your turn.
Thank you. So my message is sales for us. Washington has not been working for the American people. That's what Western Marylanders have been telling us. They feel left out and left behind. You can tell by the infrastructure that they have that they want more investments in their community. They want a champion in Congress who will bring back resources, who will invest in jobs, who will ensure their schools are well funded, their educators are well paid. They want someone who understands the economy, the future economy, and how innovation will drive the future of this district. We want a champion in District 6. This is home. This is the biotech corridor. This is home to the most diverse city in the nation. And we have opportunities that we can continue to build upon, not just here in Maryland, but across the country when we elect the right person to this district who understands the nuances from Montgomery County all the way to Western Maryland. The dynamics between the rural parts and the urban parts of this community. That's why I was elected to represent this diverse county.
Thank you, April.
I call District 6 a microcosm of America. Red, blue, urban, rural, and I feel like I authentically match it. I grew up in Buell, Idaho. I'm a farmer's daughter. I know how to really message too, because I lived in a rural community and I know both the opportunities and challenges. I think how you do it is you talk about our progressive values as Democrats, that we want a brighter, more inclusive, more equitable future, but you also talk about driving investment. I think I'm uniquely positioned because I worked at the Department of Commerce. I was Deputy Assistant Secretary there, and really about how we drive investment into Mountain and Western Maryland with our CHIPS, with our rural broadband and connectivity, with our digital equity grants, and really talking about workforce development, economic development. And I've spent a lifetime in business, nonprofit, and government driving coalitions to kind of coalesce on solutions and get things done. And if you message pragmatically like that, you are going to win this purple district.
There you go. I'll let you finish the sentence. Bo.
Yes, sir. For me, it's from my childhood growing up. Again, I have come from a single mom. I've been on welfare. It was the days on welfare. You have to go pick your food stamp books up and then go get the government cheese, that they used to say. But I've been really blessed and known people who work, whether it's auto industry, who are small business owners, folks who are unfortunately generational on some type of assistance. With my union work and my political work, I have known people who were barely making $15 an hour, who are home health care workers, to security guards, to janitorial, all the way to higher skilled building trades engineers who are making 150 plus. We have to have honest, open conversations with folks about the possibilities of having a better life and provide those resources and tools to give those opportunities, because sometimes traditional school isn't for everybody, but to understand that we all come from different walks of life, but knowing that we do want the best opportunity, not only for yourself, but for others, and being able to have empathy, or at least understand where people come from and how to hopefully push them in another direction to hopefully have their lives be better.
Thank you very much. Mohammed.
What is the question now?
The question is, in this wonderful purple district, how does your profile and message beat the Republican nominee? I'm waiting for that one. Go ahead.
Okay, I came here in this country as a child, and now I am an adult, and I enjoy the benefit of immigration and all these things. Republican Party is still against the common people, I consider. Republican Party don't talk about immigration, of tax hike of the business owners and corporates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. George.
Okay, the key to beating the Republican is not the Republican. So let me give you some numbers here. From the end of February to the end of March, just in Montgomery County here, and the numbers are similar elsewhere in the district, there were 75 new Democratic registrants, 478 new Republican registrants, and 1,883 who registered as neither. For 20 years, I was neither a Republican nor a Democrat. When I teach, I don't teach to Democrats or Republicans. I teach to the students, no matter where they or their families lie. I've had over 80,000 students. I'm hoping they remember me. I never told them that I was running. I ran for the first time in '09 for office. I'm hoping that they'll remember me and also recognize that I have been, if they look at my website, I have been for 20 years neither a Republican or a Democrat. And so I hope to get the majority of those non-affiliated votes and beat the Republican that way.
Joe.
Well, this is going to be a tough election, and folks are tired, right? And folks I talk to want a candidate that they can be excited about. And there's a story that recently in our campaign, someone emailed us saying that their yard sign had been taken, but now they want a big 4-foot by 8-foot one for their front yard. That's the kind of excitement that our campaign is generating as we have volunteers knock across this district, as we have thousands and thousands of individual donors who stepped in to chip into our campaign. And I also look across this district, in particular the more red parts and the more rural parts, where mayors, Democratic and Republican mayors, have pledged our support to our campaign because they know that we have what it takes to defeat whoever the extreme Republican is, whether it's Dan Cox or Neil Parrott next November. 3 of the 4 council members in Cumberland, for example, are standing with our campaign. The mayor of the largest municipality in Garrett County is endorsing our campaign. Let's give folks someone to be excited about this November.
Okay. Mayor, remember, I want to know what you're going to do to appeal to this part of in this question is appealing to Republicans. What are you going to do to appeal to them. Not to point you out there, Joe, but I understand the yard signs, but I'm looking to find out what specifically. And so we got a few guys left.
Do I get a rebuttal
Let's see
for
if we
that
can
one?
Get there. I'll even give you a chance
right.
to rebut. But go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, and so I will say that training mediators and also advocating for people to become mediators, because that's how I learned about politics, and that's how I learned by going down to the State House and advocating for the prison to school pipeline, House Bill 485, I believe it was, going down there and having to door knock and not basically go see all of my Democrat representatives, because it wasn't very many down there then. I started that 9 years ago. And so I believe that training mediators and training people how to be able to hear and understand without feeling offended, without getting and staying offended and not being able to get work done. So that's what I would like to do. Another thing that I think that is important is I live in the district. I have right now, Neil Parrott, I can beat Neil Parrott, and I know I can beat Neil Parrott. I know I can beat Neil Parrott, because the Republican Party is not talking about Neil Parrott. I mean, not talking about the person who raised the most money. They're still talking about Neil Parrott. And when I ran for city council, I'll put a picture on my Facebook page. I argued with Neil Parrott's folks, and at the end of it, they sent my flyer to all of their people, and Republicans voted for me that day.
Thank you very much. Leslie.
Well, thank you to everyone who's still awake now, because I know we're like an hour and something.
We're getting towards the end, but wait till the last question. You're going to have fun. Go ahead.
All right. So you started this question by saying there's no purple people. But I actually think that most people are purple. When most people wake up, they don't think I'm a Democrat or a Republican. They think, how do I pay my bills and how do I keep my kids safe? And if you just respect people's humanity, regardless of what party they are, and you show up as a leader who is approachable, warm, and competent, you gain people's respect. And you fight with respect, not just in the easy times, but when things are tough, right? You talk about the independents and how we're going to get those votes. I've been representing a district that is 29% independent for 6 years. And so when I knock on a door, I'm not certain if it's going to be a Democrat or a Republican, or most likely, an independent who might be talking to. And so the preparation, I think, frankly, for me in this is that I come from a conservative family. I come from a military family. I come from a Catholic family. And so I've basically been preparing for this election every Thanksgiving and Christmas of my life.
What'd you give up for Lent? Anyway, sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Sain.
So after spending 90% of my time 7 days a week actually meeting these voters at their homes across the district every single day, I know that most voters, they're still undecided. They don't care about endorsements and fundraising numbers, and they still don't trust politicians of either party. What they're looking for is someone who has the most experience, can actually earn that trust back, and has a winning campaign to back it up. In terms of experience, I have the most expansive federal experience of any of the great candidates running here. That includes 2 offices in the Obama White House and 2 federal agencies. So understanding how to build those coalitions and fight for more federal funding for our district. When it comes to earning that trust back, not just giving you generic talking points, but specific nuanced policy solutions, all written by the residents impacted by those decisions. And then a winning campaign. By spending less than $90,000, our campaign has 293 active volunteers from the district, canvassed more than 72,000 individuals across this district. We're the second in this race to have ads on TV, which don't attack other candidates, but actually focus on nuanced policy solutions.
There you go. Thank you. Peter, last word, brother. All right, we have two people who want to, but go ahead. He's got a minute, and then we'll do rebuttal for those two. Go ahead.
Thanks. So I've been pretty honest about my background, financial insecurity, being raised by a single mom, how I worked in a factory in high school, how I worked as a janitor. I understand economic insecurity, and I'm hearing it a lot from people all over the district. But people are also inspired, whatever their political affiliation is, by somebody who knows how to start a successful business, how to help U.S. investors, startups grow their businesses, even help foreign countries grow their economic development. So they're looking for somebody who has specific ideas. I've talked about CDFIs, community development finance institutions, for low interest loans, and also to give people financial services in rural areas that are underbanked, and also in minority communities. They're looking for the right to start. I'm the only person talking about this stuff. So to help build startups, whether you're a florist, whether you're a plumber, whether you're a barber, so people can start in Maryland in the 6th district to build their own access to the middle class. And also I talk about changing the tax code. Look, we did this before. It was one of the bipartisan basis. It's one of the keys for Bill Clinton's balanced budget and economic prosperity. We got to go back to that.
Thank you very much. That's everyone. Now, I have one final question when we have 30 seconds. I haven't forgot you. We have 30-second rebuttal here. I've got one final question, then you will have your 30-second closing statement. You were first, Joe. You wanted to rebut. Go ahead.
Sure. I'll very directly answer your question on how to appeal to Republicans, and you have to show up, right? The other day I was meeting with the mayor of Lonaconig in Allegheny County, a Republican. He's now pledged to support our campaign because I showed up, I listened, and I earned his trust. The mayor of Mountain Lake Park is an independent supporting our campaign. But let's put on our campaign strategy hat for a second. No one's forced to vote in November. You have to give folks, Democrats, Republicans, Independents, folks that aren't affiliated, you have to give them something to be excited about to show up in November. That's what our campaign is offering.
There's been incredible excitement across the whole district for my message, because what I've talked about is really not only my experience and stability of being able to deliver results for the 6th district, and I think that's a big issue. There are a lot of independents in Frederick in particular, and I think it is important to message about, investment and what you're going to do. But I think it's also about our democracy. Democracy is on the line, and people want stable leadership and to go in. And, choice, even among Republicans and independents, is a huge issue. So referencing choice, referencing our democracy, talking about how there is stable leadership and going in and meeting people where they are and figuring it out. I've done this my whole life, but I think it's really important to message that you're going to stay there, you're going to be stable, you're going to show up. And people listen to it.
When the timekeeper is telling me, hey. All right, so last question before your 30 seconds. Look, one of the things I like to do in these candidate forums, you've sat now in the audience for 2 hours and listened to how these people respond on issues. I'd like in your last question for this audience to get to know you personally a little bit. So my last question, and we're going to start with the mayor down there, and I don't care which of these four you want to answer, or if you want to give me an answer to all four of them, I'll give you 30 seconds just to be brief. What's your favorite book? What's your favorite movie? What music do you like to listen to? Who's your favorite comic? What are you going to do if you're not here? What are you as a person? Who are you as a person? So, Mayor, book, movie, music, comic, what you got for me?
So I'm a poet, and one of the things that is the best thing for me is to be able to actually write. I stopped reading. I used to read a book a day, but I stopped reading so that I could write more. And so I do a lot of writing. I don't watch movies either. I just don't have the capability to follow, which is why usually I have to do self-paced things. My hearing and comprehension is not good. And so music is my thing. And I listen to all types of music. Actually, I was listening to Paula Abdul, Rush. Again, I grew up in Washington County. I still like to square dance.
There you go. I'll do the do-si-do with you, baby. All right.
I love it.
Leslie?
I can square dance a little bit. Partner? Okay. So my favorite movie probably of all time is Legally Blonde. And I realize the irony of that because I am wearing pink, and I usually don't wear pink, and hopefully I look like a blonde. Pay a lot of money for that. But I think the movie speaks to me because it's a movie about showing up as your authentic self, and when people doubt you, being authentic is what saves the day. And she was able to lean into her lived experiences and eventually win the case and bring justice about.
Mr. Jane.
Yeah, I'm a nerd. So outside of all of this, I actually do card magic. I'm a magician. I started when I had cancer at the age of 13 in the hospital. Doctor came around, did a couple card magic tricks, and I was like, oh, this kind of took me out of this crappy situation I was in. And so I perform a lot of shows for different nonprofits and organizations and for my friends. I also suck at sports, so that was kind of the only path that I
didn't
had
ask
to make.
sports. You all are politicians. I'm not going there. Go ahead.
Well, I'm a Greek person, so we have to plant things. It's in our genes. We don't have olive trees, but we'll try anything else in our house. And every vegetable we plant, the chipmunks or the squirrels eat, but we still do it. And I do it with my two daughters, 4.5 and 6.5. I think you saw them, some of you. I spend a lot of time when I can with them. It's a joy. It's not work. We do a lot of reading. We actually do some writing, but it's just basically whatever they want. Playing with blocks, drawing, climbing on daddy, don't hurt daddy, get down from there. But that's what I do. Thanks.
That's a parent answer right there. Anybody who's had kids know that. Okay, go, Lorianne.
So, as the daughter of an Army veteran, my father was deployed a lot, and my mother needed a break from the 6 children, so she sent us away with our father. So, I would go to Belgium in the summer and drive around the countryside and visit different towns and villages with my father. So, I think my passion for travel and geography was inspired by those visits. The music I think about, because it's a long way to get from Montgomery County to Garrett County, so Alicia Keys is always on my mind. This Girl's on Fire is my favorite music. Book, The Promised Land, of looking back at Obama's experience while he was in office, and I see the timer.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. April, your shot.
You know, I grew up in Idaho, so I really
So
love.
you like potatoes.
I do. I'm a potato farmer's daughter. I could tell you why potatoes from Idaho are the best, but that's offline. But but I love the outdoors. I love skiing. I love hiking and being with my family. But really, I think my best thing is that I have raised 4 daughters from 31 to 16, and we spend a lot of family time together. I'm a big Swiftie. I've gone to almost every single Taylor Swift concert with my daughters, and don't let me sing it to you, but
no, we don't have time for that.
Yeah. But I think a lot of family time is it's a juggle. It's a long.
There you go, Bo.
You can see books: Golden Bough, Donald Goines, Marcus Aurelius quotes, music, love everything. Alison Krauss Jr. Station, to Tupac, to Jazz, to Miles. Oh boy, that's a lot there.
Miles Davis.
Oh yeah, Miles.
All right.
Maybe some Sarah Vaughan, all the good old classic stuff. Movies, I love everything from Nick and Nora Charles, the Thin Man movies, to Uptown Saturday Night, those old Sidney Poitier, Bill Cosby movies. Obviously some traditional, like also old school kung fu theater movies I like too. Comics, definitely enjoying, but probably Gary Owens was my favorites right now. And I also like baseball and hockey.
There you go. And I have never, in all the years, I want to tell you, Bo, in all the years I've been doing these type of forums, I've never heard anyone say they were a fan of the kung fu movies. That's the first time I've heard that one. Go ahead. Well, your turn.
I want to see
Your favorite music?
Defund.
Okay. Favorite movie?
Not really. I don't want to say. I don't watch those movies.
Favorite book?
Wait, what?
Book.
Book.
Book. Favorite thing to read?
I don't remember at this point.
All right.
Thank you.
Fair enough. George?
Okay, born in 47, but love 30s and 40s music. Singers, especially, words you can understand, no electronics. Although I do listen to Pink as well, because she sang a song with her dad. Books, when I started running for office, I stopped reading fiction. The book that got me started is called The Fourth Turning, Strauss and Howe. I urge you to read it. It'll show you why this election is so important. Movies, genre, believe it or not, you can laugh. Hallmark, because my wife and I kiss at the end when everybody kisses. And finally, if you've seen White Christmas, Danny Kaye's in there. He's a great comic, a great singer, a great dancer.
Yes, he was. Joe?
That was so sweet. I don't know if I can top that.
Don't try.
And April and I can find some common ground because I'm also a huge Swiftie. So really excited about her new album. I'm also a big fan of Noah Kahan. I don't know if there's any Noah Kahan fans here. Favorite movie would probably have to be definitely Maybe with Ryan Reynolds. And favorite book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century.
There you go. Now, we've come to the end of the evening, and we've got 30-second closing for everyone. Hopefully, the audience, you've gotten to know them a little bit better. You've got to know the issues a little bit better, and we're going to leave you guys with 30 seconds each to tell us what you want to tell us in 30 seconds. I'm telling you. We're going to start with you, Joe, and we're going to end with the mayor.
Well, I want to end where I started, right, which is what's on the line in this election, which is democracy. And my family has experienced the loss of democracy generation after generation after generation. I refuse to be the fourth generation in a row to experience that loss of democracy. We are building a campaign not just to win an election, but to reignite that faith in democracy and that confidence in government and make people excited about politics. Again, right now as we sit here, we have volunteers knocking on doors across this district. I hope to earn your vote on May 14th.
Thank you very much. George.
Actually, Joe gave me an idea. I had already given you what I thought was earlier, weeks ago, thought would be my 1 minute end. So let me give you this 30-second end to tell you what I would do. Give you an example. In 2000, my wife got a Gore sign for our lawn. Back then, the Homeowners Association didn't allow us to put political signs on the lawn. And the head of the Homeowners Association came by and said, George, you can't put it there. Put it in your window. I said, no one will see it there. There's a tree in the way. So I said, does the rules say that we can not put it in the lawn itself only? And she said, yes. I put it up in the tree right over the walk.
Mohammed?
My highest priority is to stop Israeli genocide, okay? And my second highest priority is to expand mass transit with rail. And my third highest priority is to reduce inflation by expanding immigration. So I ask you all to vote for me. This is Mohammed Mazumdar. You can look at my website, mazumdar4md.com.
Thank you very much. Bo.
Yes, sir. Again, thank you, everyone, today. Please visit me at kiambawhite.com or bowhiteforcongress.com. To me, we live in a beautiful and diverse nation. As we strive for a more perfect union, we must work together to exceed all expectations. I want to be your servant and your custodian to not only navigate what's not only going on today, but what's going on now, but what goes on tomorrow. I want you to vote for your community, vote for your country, vote for your community, vote for your family, and vote for yourself. And please don't forget that the facts and the truth never take a day off. Thank you.
Thank you, April.
So for this Democratic Women's Club, I have to say that I am a woman, something sorely missing from this federal delegation, but one that is going to really emphasize choice, maternal health, on all of the issues hitting women and families across this nation and in this district. It is a pivotal election, and I feel like we have to stress leadership, integrity, and the ability to keep this seat blue. And by doing so, I think I will be able to do it by bringing the resources, the leadership, and the authentic message which matches this district to keep it blue, which is so important for our democracy.
Thank you, Lorianne.
So we have a very important decision to make, where we want our country to go and who we want to represent us. My platform of a Smarter 6th District encompasses the priorities that are important to people who live all across the district, from living in safe communities to an education system that works for everyone, an inclusive economy, tackling climate change, reproductive rights. We need to ensure that we elect a woman to this district, and we can do that together. Go to salesforus.com, and I hope to earn your vote on Tuesday, May 14th. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
So this is a job application. Ask yourself who is most electable and also who will be most effective in Congress. I've talked about being a small business person. This district has elected a business person for the last 12 years. I've helped startups. I've helped foreign investors. I can help the 6th District. I'm a lawyer. I've fought very tough battles. I've fought a dictator. Joe talks about dictatorship. I represented the hero of the movie Hotel Rwanda. If Brett Kavanaugh was a year behind me in law school, if this activist court continues to ignore the law, I can know how to fight them, and I will. Finally, I'm an expert in national security, foreign affairs. Nothing means anything if we're not safe, and I can keep you safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Ashwani.
Thank you so much, Ashwani Jain again. While I'm one of 16 candidates that are going to appear on your ballot if you live in the district, here are 3 reasons I'm hoping to earn your support. First, I have the most expansive federal experience needed, working in 2 different offices in the Obama White House and 2 federal agencies to fight for more funding for our district. Number 2, we have the most accessible and accountable campaign that has already gotten money out of politics and focused on nuanced policy solutions. And number 3, we have a winning operation with the most volunteers, most doors knocked, most visibility. And you can go to janeforcongress.com to learn more and join us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leslie.
Thank you. Again, my name is Delegate Leslie Lopez, and the most important question you could ask anyone for running for office is why. And for me, why I'm running for this seat is because I just don't think working families really have a fair shot in this country. We don't have a seat at the table. And that's what I've been doing for the past 6 years as a lawmaker in Annapolis. I've worked with a lot of you on issues that have to do with reproductive care when I was president of the Women's Caucus, and I understand that this is a team sport, and I want to recruit you for my team. So if you are a doer or a donor, there is a place for you on my team. And if I have the honor of getting your 5th vote for some of you in Congress, then I would always make sure working families have a seat at the table.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Last word.
So when I said that I don't watch movies, I forgot that I'm currently watching Shirley, the documentary, and it has taken me a couple of weeks to watch it because I only watch it in chunks. But one of the things that I appreciated was she said to someone she wanted to hire is humility in successful people comes off as its own kind of arrogance. And so what I want to leave you with is there's power in being of service, intentional and on purpose. And if you play back the tape and you look at my track record, you can see that nothing stops me from showing up. Not having any money, not having any place to live. I show up, and I've done it for 2 decades in Hagerstown, Maryland. That's how I went from foster care to mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Tazina has something she wants to say. Before we close, I want to thank you all for being here today, first of all. I have covered races across this country. I've covered everything from city council and well, hell, even PTA meetings to the presidency and members of Congress. I always close with this, and I say this sincerely to every one of you. You must vote. And it's more than just voting. You must volunteer. You must be involved. Get your friends to go to the polls. Get your friends to vote. Talk to them. Folks, I have spent the last 6 months traveling across this country, many of them in swing states, looking at the presidential race. One of the things that I heard from all of these candidates today, and one that you should take home that is as serious as it gets, the democracy that we enjoy, respect, and want to be a part of is in danger. Get out and vote. Get out and help. I'm not endorsing a candidate. I'm endorsing people to get out and get off their butts and do what's right. So whoever you vote for, thank you for being here. Talk to your friends. Tazine.
And thank you, Brian, for just an amazing moderating this event. And thank you for all the candidates, for all of your answers. You were all great, and I wish you all the best. Just want to do a couple housekeeping rules and want to just reiterate what Brian just said, how important it is for us to get involved, to vote, to make sure that we get our family and friends to vote. We can take nothing for granted in this election, so please make that effort. We did find a bracelet up here, so okay. So you can get it from me at the end. And candidates and anyone else, if you brought any type of signage, you're handing out literature, if you could please make sure you just take it with you when you go so we can wrap up and leave the place in the same condition that we had it. And once again, thank you everyone, and a special thank you to Brian.